about some irregular verbs. They're called irregular yo because they're irregular only in the yo form in the present tense. Okay, and some of these are called go verbs because whereas you normally would just add an O to make it the yo form, you actually have to add go. Okay, and that's why they're called go verbs. Okay, these verbs are verbs that you've already seen before, at least most of them, probably all of them. And these are, for example, tengo, yo vengo, yo traigo, yo salgo, yo hago, yo oigo, yo pongo. Those are all the go verbs. And then there are four other irregular verbs, which are yo doy, yo conozco, yo sé, yo veo.
So first there are irregular verbs which we call go verbs, and we call them go verbs because instead of taking off the last two letters of the verb and just adding O like we normally would do, we add go instead of just O, so we call them go verbs. And this only happens in the yo form, or the first person, and only in the present tense. So these are irregular yo or go verbs. Okay, the ones that end in go, there are going to be 7 that we talk about in this lesson. They are hacer, poner, salir, traer, venir, tener, y oír. Okay, and then additionally we're going to talk about 4 other irregular verbs that aren't called go verbs because they don't end in go, but they are irregular. And those 4 are conocer, saber, ver, y dar. So let's first talk about poner and salir. Poner means to put or place, or to put on, and salir means to leave or to go out. So poner, if you take off the last 2 letters like you normally would when you conjugate a verb, and then you just add, instead of O, you add go, and you have pongo, I put or I place. And then with salir, you take off the last 2 letters like you normally would, and then you add go, and you come up with salgo, I leave or I go out. Next we have venir, which means to come, and tener, to have, or when you combine it with que, have to. Okay, so venir, take off the last 2 letters, add go, vengo, I come. Tener, take off er, add go, tengo, I have. Okay, these 3 can be considered go verbs because they do end in go, but they have some stem changes as well. With traer means to bring, decir, to say or tell, hacer, to make or to do. Traer, you take off er, but then you have to add an I there in the stem, and it becomes traigo, I bring. With decir, it's a verb that we've seen a lot. You take off ir, and then there's a stem change with the E becomes an I, and we end up with digo, D-I-G-O, digo, I say or I tell. And then hacer, when you drop the er, you have to drop the C, so you drop C-E-R and add go, G-O. Hago, I do or I make. These next 2 words are irregular. Conocer and saber, they both mean to know. Of course, conocer is to know people or places. Saber is to know information, know how to do something. Okay, so conocer, when you conjugate it to the yo form, after you take off er, you add CZ, and the word changes into conozco. Yo conozco, I know. And saber becomes a totally different word. Becomes sé, yo sé, I know. These last 2 irregular verbs are very different as well. Dar, to give, and ver, to see or watch. Okay, dar, you take off ar and add oy, and you get yo doy, I give. Okay, now this is a little bit similar to the verb that you learned at the very beginning of Spanish, ser, yo soy, I am, yo doy, I give. Okay, with ver, you take off er, and then you're just left within the V. So you add eo, veo, I watch or I see. Me pongo la ropa en la mañana. Salgo de la escuela a las 3. Vengo de Sudáfrica. Tengo mucho sueño. Traigo mi cuaderno y lápiz. La digo un secreto. Hago mi tarea en la noche. Yo te conozco. Yo sé tocar la guitarra. Veo la televisión con mi iPad.